Hello, it's Willie from the Ozarks, and we're ready for our July 23rd lesson in A Course in Miracles workbook for students, which is lesson 204. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. The name of God is my inheritance. The name of God is my inheritance. Remember how he talked about back in the lesson that you identify with your family by your name? Well, we're identifying our family as being the family of God. God's name reminds me that I am His son, not slave to time, unbound by laws which rule the world of sick illusions, free in God forever and forever, one with Him. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. Okay, let's see. We are going to take a look at we're gonna look at that again here in a moment. But before we do, let's go back and take a look at yesterday's lesson. I've got something here I want to show you in a minute. I'll show you right now. This is some basil. I realized I brought it out here so I could talk to you about it for a little bit. But before we do, let's go back and look at our text reading. We are in chapter 2. We are ready for paragraph 35, which what we're going to do, we're going to back up to 34 and reread it too. There are many other so-called dynamic concepts which are profound errors due essentially to the misuse of defenses. Among them is the concept of different levels of aspiration, which actually result from level confusion. However, the main point to be understood from this section is that you can defend truth as well as error, and in fact, much better. 35. The means are easier to clarify after the value of the goal itself is firmly established. Everyone defends his own treasure. You do not have to tell him to do so because he will do it automatically. The real questions still remain. What do you treasure, and how much do you treasure it? Okay, we want to start answering that question to ourselves because we'll defend that treasure automatically. So we want to start delving into our minds and determining what it is that we treasure and how much do we treasure it. Do we value peace? Do we value it enough to let it blossom into happiness? Once you have learned to consider these two questions and to bring them into all your actions as the true criteria for behavior, I will have little difficulty in clarifying the means. You have not learned to be consistent about this as yet. I have therefore concentrated on showing you that the means are available whenever you ask. You can, however, save a lot of time if you do not extend this step unduly. The correct focus will shorten it immeasurably. Ask for help when you realize that what you treasure is being lost. Ask for help. 36. The atonement is the only defense which cannot be used destructively. That is because, while everyone must eventually join it, it is not a device which was generated by man. The atonement principle was in effect long before the atonement itself began. The principle was love, and the atonement itself was an act of love. Acts were not necessary before the separation because the time-space belief did not exist. It was only after the separation that the defense of atonement and the necessary conditions for its fulfillment were planned. So after the separation, after we believed we could separate from God, that's what gave birth to time and space. 37. It became increasingly apparent that all the defenses which man can choose to use constructively or destructively were not enough to save him. It was therefore decided that he needed a defense which was so splendid that he could not misuse it although he could refuse it. His choice could not, however, turn it into a weapon of attack, which is the inherent characteristic of all other defenses. The atonement thus becomes the only defense which is not a two-edged sword. And atonement is that chain of forgivenesses that we weld together that is the atonement. The atonement actually began long before the crucifixion. Many souls offered their efforts on behalf of the separated ones, but they could not withstand the strength of the attack and had to be brought back. Angels came too, but their protection did not suffice because the separated ones were not interested in peace. They hadn't valued peace yet, had they? They had already split their minds and were bent on further dividing rather than reintegrating. The levels they introduced into their minds turned against each other, and they established differences, divisions, cleavages, dispersions, and all the other concepts related to the increasing splits which they produced. 39. Not being in their right minds, they turned their defenses from protection to assault and acted literally insanely. And I think we're still doing that a lot, aren't we? It was essential to introduce a split-proof device which could be used only to heal, if it were used at all. The atonement was built into the space-time belief in order to set a limit on the need for the belief and ultimately to make learning complete. The atonement is the final lesson. Learning itself, like the classroom in which it occurs, is temporary. The ability to learn has no value when change of understanding is no longer necessary. The eternally creative have nothing to learn. Only after the separation was it necessary to direct the creative force to learning, because changed behavior had become mandatory. All right, so he indicates there that in the in our eternal state before the separation, and what's going on really right now, even we may not be aware of it, is that we're in, what's he call it, a eternally creative state. So we don't have to learn. But in this world we can learn. And what's the best thing to learn? How to be at peace, forgiveness, how to stay happy all the time so that you can be the light that you are intended to be in this dark world. 40. Men can learn to improve their behavior and can also learn to become better and better learners. This serves to bring them into closer and closer accord with the sonship, but the sonship itself is a perfect creation, and perfection is not a matter of degree. Only while there are different degrees in learning, is learning meaningful. Only while there are different degrees is learning meaningful. The evolution of man is merely a process by which he proceeds from one degree to the next. He corrects his previous missteps by stepping forward. This represents a process which is actually incomprehensible in temporal terms because he returns as he goes forward. 41. The atonement is the device by which he can free himself from the past as he goes ahead. It undoes his past errors, thus making it unnecessary for him to keep retracing his steps without advancing to his return. In this sense, the atonement saves time, but like the miracle which serves it, does not abolish it. As long as there is need for atonement, there is need for time. But the atonement as a completed plan does have a unique relationship to time. But the atonement as a completed plan does have a unique relationship to time. Until the atonement is finished, its various phases will proceed in time, but the whole atonement stands at time's end. At this point, the bridge of the return has been built. 42. The atonement is a total commitment. You still think this is associated with loss. This is the same mistake all the separated ones make in one way or another. They cannot believe that a defense which cannot attack is the best defense. This is what is meant by the meek shall inherit the earth. They will literally take it over because of their strength. A two-way defense is inherently weak precisely because it has two edges and can turn against the self very unexpectedly. This tendency cannot be controlled except by miracles. I wanted to bring our attention that's just briefly about the meek shall inherit the earth. They will literally take it over because of their strength. So when you are able to step back and let God lead the way, you're working with authentic power, and your strength is undeniable. It can't be stopped because you're integrated with everything. So when Jesus said 2,000 years ago, the meek shall inherit the earth there in the Beatitudes, he now gives us a little bit more clarity about what that actually meant. They will literally take it over. Wow. So we're going to actually heal the planet and take it over in love and good and in kindness because we're integrating with God. This is the plan. They will literally take it over because of their strength. The miracle turns the defense of atonement to the protection of the inner self, which as it becomes more and more secure, assumes its natural talent of protecting others. The inner self knows itself as both a brother and a son. You know that when defenses are disrupted, there's a period of real disorientation accompanied by fear, guilt, and usually vacillation between anxiety and depression. Let's read that again. You know that when defenses are disrupted, there is a period of real disorientation accompanied by fear, guilt, and usually vacillation between anxiety and depression. This course is different in that defenses are not being disrupted, but reinterpreted, even though you may experience it as the same thing. In the reinterpretation, the defenses, only their use for attack is loss. In the reinterpretation of defenses, only their use for attack is lost. Since this means they can be used only one way, they become much stronger and much more dependable. They no longer oppose the atonement, but greatly facilitate it. Okay, well, we'll stop there. We'll be ready for paragraph 44 tomorrow. All right, let's go back now to lesson 204. But before we do, let me show you this. My daughter Rebecca picked this on Saturday, me and her actually, and we put it in so it's been what, 5 days ago, 5. Anyway, we picked this and put it up on the counter, and she was going to take it home and then forgot it probably. And I've been picking little bits of it off and eating it, but I'll probably just go ahead and make some what do you call that? Nut butter, and that's what I do. I put nut butter and basil together and make a really nice tasty pesto. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know you don't have to have refrigeration is my point I was trying to make. I'd showed you the little plant before I planted it way back on the equinox, March 21st, I believe it was. So anyway, that is holy basil, also known as sweet basil. See if I can get it to not fall over. I looked it up. ACIM basilicum is the scientific name. And on RX list, it says the basil leaves, stems, and flowers are what's used as medicine. And here's what it says that they're used for stomach spasms, loss of appetite, intestinal gas, kidney conditions, fluid retention, head colds, warts, worm infections, insect bites, and snake bites. And I'll say I've used it personally for both insect and snake bite, along with some other herbs. Uh, anyway, the essential oil for it, I find it quite useful and very, very tasty. So mixing up some kind of like cashew butter or almond butter or some kind of nut butter along with a blended basil, and just mix it up real good. And if you have to have a little salt in it, you can do so, but I usually don't even use that. Makes a really nice pesto, just real simple. I like to not use oils so much. Add a little garlic or onion to it too, probably. You make it different, whatever you got in your garden. Okay, and hey, listen, I'm sitting in front of my little favorite white oak tree, and I wanted to mention to you, yesterday I showed you the black oak or the red oak, and this is the white oak again. And look, see how much whiter the bark is from yesterday? And that's how, when you're walking in the woods and you see an oak tree, the quickest thing to do is it a white oak or a black oak? And the lumber is completely different, or I say completely. They're both nice hard woods, but the white oak, like I said, doesn't let water through it, so it makes nice barrels, where red oak doesn't have that quality. Red oak splits a lot easier. I like to pick dead red oaks to split for firewood, of course, but all the oaks split fairly easily. All right, so we're going to lesson 204, and we're going to look at it again. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. The name of God is my inheritance. The name of God is my inheritance. God's name reminds me that I am His son, not slave to time, unbound by laws which rule the world of sick illusions, free in God, forever and forever one with Him. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. And I don't suppose I need to say again how we want to be doing this lesson, but just as a recap, you want to spend 15 minutes morning and 15 minutes in the evening, a minimum. And we've reached this level of 15-minute meditation or practice period in the morning and in the evening, and we won't go beyond it, and nor will we go less. You can take as much time as you want. You may find that a half an hour is not enough time for you to sit in the stillness and the quiet. But let me emphasize 15 minutes as a minimum for the rest of the Course in Miracles as our practicing every morning and every evening, and then the hourly remembrance throughout the day. And if more so, is all the better. But to have that as a minimum that you're going to keep for the rest of the course. So we're really not asking for that much. We're asking to change your whole world. Change your life, make it happy, make it peaceful, make it empowered. The meek shall inherit the earth. They'll literally take it over because of the strength. We're wanting you to take over the world by love, all right, which is what you are and who you are. So I just wanted to emphasize that how we want to be maintaining our practices now. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. We're going to have that down, aren't we? Just like we had our last lesson. What was that? The last review? Who remembers it? I said it yesterday, and now I should have not said anything without having it clear in my mind. My mind holds only what I think with God. If we did that one, we probably still. That was probably still running, and it ought to be. We're doing these lessons because we want to take them with us. So today's I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. The name of God is my inheritance. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. The name of God is my inheritance. God's name reminds me that I am His son, not slave to time, unbound by laws which rule the world of sick illusions. Unbound by laws which rule the world of sick illusions, free in God, forever and forever one with Him. The name of God is my inheritance. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. So until tomorrow, practice well. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. The name of God is my inheritance. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me.